Welcome to the Oso Spurs podcast, where we are going to bring you some joy despite your despondency. We have Ross, who runs the Tottenham Simpsons account on Twitter. How are you, Ross?
Face reveal. I think. I don't know. It's nice to be on YouTube with my clothes on. So yeah. It's nice. It's great to be here. Thank you so much for the invite as well. Thank you very much.
Oh, no, it's great to have you on. Actually, I forgot to say the story before we went live, but my boss sent me a Twitter link to your profile and was like, "Is this the alter ego account that you have of Tottenham?" And I was like, "No, but he's on our show next week." So there you go. And we have Johnny over in Dublin. How are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm good. Jim, how are you, man?
I'm doing very good, thanks. Yeah, I'm not into all this negativity at the moment. I'm still a 6 or a 7 out of 10. I would have been a 9 if we'd won, but there you go. We'll dive into why that is later, and why there's still some things we can look forward to this season. Should we start with just feelings on the result? There's a general consensus is overwhelming disappointment on the loss to City. Are you guys in the same camp, Ross? Where do you feel about
that? It's the best team in the world, with the best manager, with some of the best players, and you could tell by their reaction on social media, especially their own account, when they put, "Oh my God, we've scored at Tottenham." I think they really got into their head they were going to win no matter what. They were missing some players. We're missing a lot of players. I don't see it as a bad. It's not the end of the world. It is a bad thing we've lost, but my God, it's okay. It's Man City. It's not like we've lost to, Maidstone or anything like that. So it's fine. It's all right. It's something that I would have loved to have won, obviously, because it's FA Cup. I still just about remember 91. Show me age a bit there. But yeah, it's fine. It's fine. I've got over it. Can look forward to Brentford now.
You two are going to start reminiscing over years I wasn't born, aren't you? But Johnny, where were you when we won the FA Cup, and how are you feeling about?
Yeah, exactly. Jesus, I remember. I think the '82 shirt was my first jersey. I remember, I had the light blue away, and it was a centenary year, obviously. So it's centenary year around the badge. So yeah, you're making me feel even older. So thanks for that. No, I totally agree. I was at the game. Obviously, before I kind of did the usual predict Spurs to win because we have the kind of hoodoo over them or whatever. But I mean, it's no great shock really the outcome. I know I was I think we were all a little bit down, or maybe not so much Deej, but all but fairly down on Stu in the preview pod because he was being he was being realistic. I guess the most pragmatic and the most realistic in terms of his prediction, and he called it right. But I suppose for me, the game maybe just came a little bit soon, and it's a little bit of a reality check because really, like Ross is saying, we've got. The opponent is just ridiculously good. We, at the same time, I remember after the game, so I was at the game with my mate Will, who lives in London, and he's a Liverpool supporter, but he's pretty sound and would be fairly objective. And we were during the game, there was a lot of stuff that he really liked about Spurs, and after the game, obviously it was a disappointing finale and stuff. But I didn't think we were all that bad. I know we were pretty profligate up front. Nothing much happens in the final third. I mean, that was the obvious thing. But I thought our defence was really, really good. And I think that Sai said that we were absolutely battered. And I was like, no, we weren't absolutely battered at all. We only... Maybe in the last 15, 20 minutes, there's a few kind of Keystone Cops mistakes happening. Højbjerg kind of chipping in there. Vicario probably could have done better with the goal and stuff. But I think there was only 4 shots on target in the whole game. I don't think they really... they started a lot better than us. But once we got a foothold in the game, I thought we were pretty much as good as they were, other than at the final third, which is obviously a very important part of the pitch. But I thought we were really all right, apart from the final third. And obviously there's just that killer pass. There was no there was just no kind of cutting edge to our passing. There was really the pace of the passing. Porro was guilty quite a few times of just overhitting it. Brennan Johnson was pretty shocking, I have to say. I'm sorry. But I thought Van de Ven was amazing. I thought Udogie was really excellent. Romero, apart from at the end, you kind of lost the plot a little bit, but I thought we were really good at the back. And there's a lot to be kind of positive about because, we're out of the cup. I know it's a disappointment. We're out. Another trophy's gone. But there's an awful lot to look at there and think, with the players we've got coming back from AFCON and Sonny coming back from the Asian Cup, that Maddison obviously coming back into form soon, there's lots to be positive about, So.
Yeah. Well, it just looked exactly as I thought it would do. Like, you've got a really good defence and a really good goalkeeper who can play out the back, and you get to that phase of the pitch where you need to rely on your midfielders to create something, and it didn't exist. Or you need someone up front who can do something special, and that person's over competing in an international tournament who wasn't there. And it just, I didn't get, and you saw Werner making these, like a missile in the shape of Timo Werner, rather, making these amazing runs, and just there wasn't just a midfielder available there who was going to pick it up. We thought it would be Kulusevski, but he didn't seem to be taking on that role in that game. And the wingers just became this, they aren't the type of people who take a player on and dribble past them. They make the runs behind the players, and we didn't have anyone who could deliver those balls, and it is what it is.
As Johnny said, they had an offside goal, didn't they, in like the first couple of minutes? But I don't remember Vicario making a string of saves, if any. I mean, absolutely spot on. I thought Decky should have released Kulusevski should have released Werner a few times, and Werner was making these great runs. So it just seems like they just needed a few more weeks together. You can see why. Do you remember when Ange at the beginning of the transfer window said he wants the players in early so they can get used to how we play, and you can see why. It must take a bit of gelling, I suppose. But it was a half decent performance, and it was. I thought even when I'm a big Skipp fan. And I thought when he came on, he did all right. He's not the best player in the world. He's never going to be the best player at the club, but he gives a damn, and that's all you can ask for. And he did make a little bit of a difference. But no, it's all right. It was all right. Van de Ven got through the game. Romero's got through the game. Maddison's got some minutes, which is great for Wednesday. So it's not all doom and gloom.
No, it's not. And we're going into these next round of fixtures. We've got some really nice ones coming up with a lot of players returning. We just need to get through that Brighton game, I feel like, before we'll have at least one of Basuma or Sarr back, and then things start looking more rosy. But where I thought, okay, I've overshot my confidence, maybe I should have said what Deej and Stu did, which was predicting a bit of a narrow loss, was when I looked at the benches of both the teams when it came up, and I saw Doku, De Bruyne, Stones, Grealish, Gomez, and Nunez, and Ederson. I was like, well, they must have rested a load of... No, they've still got 11 world-class players on the pitch. Their backup keeper, by the way, Ortega. I'm like, oh my God, that compared to Forster, like the drop-off in difference in what you can afford when you're owned by a state instead of a millionaire is just chalk and cheese. It's just, what are you supposed to do? I don't think, I know people say we could spend more money and we could get there, but I think we would be selling the stadium to finance the players to cover that team. And then, that would all come crumbling down pretty soon afterwards. But it is what it is, guys. Should we look forward onto Brighton on Wednesday?
Move on.
Let's look forward to that. So we're not going to get anyone back in terms of Sarr, Basuma or Son for that. And there is the AFCON game tonight. So it's the best case scenario. We've got a couple returning for the weekend after. But do you guys expect any changes to the lineup based on the performance?
Personally, I'd like to see one. But I'd like to see Skipp in for Højbjerg. But that's just me being a big Skipp fan. Apart from that, we had our strongest defence out. Bentancur, maybe Maddison. Could he start?
Yeah, that's possible. Yeah. I think he didn't want to play him. God, sorry.
Sorry, I was going to say put Decky out wide and put Johnson on the bench.
Yeah.
So maybe just them. That's all I can think of. Apart from that, it's pretty much the strongest possible team.
Yeah. I think he said it wasn't necessarily Maddison's injury preventing from starting. It was putting a player into such an intense game after so long out was the wrong thing to do for a player's confidence. So, Johnny, do you agree? Skip in, Johnson to the bench?
Probably. I certainly think that Johnson to the bench, and if Maddison, I assume that Maddison could probably start. Whether you might take him off after 60 minutes or something like that, and hopefully by that point he'll have made a difference, positive difference. Because of course there was that game. Was it Bournemouth or when Bentancur came back and nobody had a clue that he was even training. So you've got if Maddison's kind of more in the picture, surely he's in a position to start. You get obviously why he wouldn't start against City, but I think it's hard to judge his performance against City on the basis of the game against City because he's coming in against that level of opposition on a 70-minute mark or whatever it was. Realistically, he's not going to be able to do anything, and he wasn't. But I think maybe from starting, it might be a better way to go. And then that allows Kulusevski to go out wide, and definitely put Johnson to the bench. I think he just needs a break. He's getting in game after game, and it's mostly through circumstances, injuries, and absences for other reasons. I certainly wouldn't be too down on Johnson. I think there's definitely, we've seen lots of glimpses of potential there. He's got a lot of weight on his shoulders with the price tag and people's expectations regarding, coming in with, he's very, very young. And I just think a bit of time on the bench and then to come in as he probably did at the very beginning, come in off the bench with his pace, which is pretty frightening. Could be a lot better for him, and a bit like with Rich, he kind of get his confidence back the way he's kind of hit a bit of form. I know it wasn't great. Well, Richie actually played all right the other night. Just he's just not the same threat as Son, but he worked really, really hard. He worked really, really hard. So yeah, I think that's the obvious one. I would rather have Skip than Højbjerg, especially Højbjerg playing in a 6 with Bentancur in front. I don't like that either, and I think that maybe I'd have Skip in front of Bentancur and have Bentancur in a 6 and Skip further forward with Maddison. I don't know. I'm not sure, but it'd be interesting to see. I would like to see Skip coming in. Højbjerg was quite decent the other day, and then he was horrendous at the end. He started off a bit dodgy, and then he was awful at the end. But he was quite good. Yeah.
I think someone put to, I think it's Bankrupt Spurs. He's quite funny to follow, but he or she, I don't know them. But they did a funny tweet that was like, I wish I could have a transfusion of Højbjerg's self-confidence into Brennan Johnson.
I saw that. Yeah.
Just because you have the opposite of Johnson, you're going he's not. I'm not saying he's lazy. He doesn't come across lazy. He just seems to lack confidence to run at him, Commitment. Go on, please. And like you say, I think he was signed as this squad option to slowly integrate into the team. And because of our implosion against Chelsea, they've been we've got no one else. You're starting the next, 10 games post that, and it's not helped by a lot of negativity from a vast minority of our fan base. Calling out a 22-year-old and calling him shit every week. But
who would be doing that, Jim? Who's doing that?
I can't imagine who would get a kick off calling a young boy a cock on the internet. But there you go. Some people get a kick out of that. Power to you guys. Whatever floats your boat, I guess. But anyway, there is some positives there. I think so. I feel for Højbjerg as well on this topic because everyone's desperate for the guy to be sold so we can get someone else in at the moment. And they're kind of demanding he accepts a relegation battle in League One so that we can get our midfielder. But you can never question his energy and commitment, can you? As a player?
I think the problem is that he is a product of the Mourinho era, isn't he? Because Mourinho kind of made him into his right-hand man on the pitch or his Viking or that rubbish. And he just doesn't fit. He just doesn't fit the way that Ange plays. Doesn't make him a bad player. He's just a bad player in that system. That's all. It sounds a bit contradictory, I know, but he is still good. He just doesn't. He isn't the right fit for us. But I don't know. Fair play to him. If he wants to stay and he's going to give us his all, I'd rather have that than somebody coming in just for a bit of money every week. So fair play to him.
Yeah, agree. He's not And we still might get someone in by the sounds of this window, but there was a meltdown over Noosa, but we probably won't dive into that one. But I'm pretty optimistic for the Brighton game. You guys expecting a win, or how are you feeling about it in terms of results?
Brighton or Brentford?
Was it
It's Brentford
on Wednesday?
It's Brentford, sorry.
Brentford.
Brentford.
Brighton's after, isn't it? Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, my bad. Brighton on the weekend, isn't it? On Saturday.
No,
Brighton
Everton.
is the following weekend. Yeah.
Oh God, yeah. Okay, I thought I was going to watch Brighton
It's still
this week,
January.
Wednesday at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, but I'm going to see Brentford on Wednesday night, and then Brighton on the Saturday the 10th. That's it.
Make sure you got the right
I'm
ticket.
going to both. Yeah. But yeah, it's gone.
It's going to be an interesting game. They're not allowed to play Reguilon, which is bad for us. It'd have been really handy if he played at right back because it just gives us an edge. You can just at least it's not going to be the Ivan Toney show as well either. I mean, it's that was getting a bit nauseating on Sky. Not like Sky to be nauseating about one person, but it's just got to a point now where I want us to smash them. I really want to. I want Romero to put him in row Z if I have to, because he's just he's so Arsenal it hurts.
He needs to be back for Matty Cash. Yeah,
I can't wait.
Yeah, but you're right, Ross. I feel this story. He just exudes the culture of Arsenal.
Oh, he does.
How they've kind of tied this I'm a recovering gambling addict kind of thing, and I'm such a hero. It's like up there with Tonali being paraded around St. James's Park for overcoming his addiction when he was just trying to. It's just so painful. It would be lovely to see him have a poor game and to beat them on Wednesday. Yeah,
I've got that out of my system now. I'm fine.
Very good. Do you want to go on to some questions? We did some popped in. Up for that?
Yeah.
Or any other points we want to make first?
I mean, I suppose just to point out how poor. I know they got a win last time out against Forest, but their form is really horrendous. They're in proper relegation form, and I think they've got 7 defeats out of 9 in their last 9 Premier League games, and also they haven't won away since October when they beat Chelsea, and they've only won twice away all season. So really, it would, and they've got some decent players, all right. I mean, there's not many teams in the Premier League that are crap. They do have some decent players, but there's no way if we're anywhere near what we're capable of that we shouldn't be winning this game. I mean, realistically.
Sorry if you can hear laughing and joy in the background. It's my son, and it's because he's not old enough to support Spurs yet. So everything's going very well in his world. But we'll do some score predictions as well, shall we? Actually, before we move on to questions that we've had in and touch on the. Love to know a bit more about Tottenham Simpsons and what brought that on, because I think it brings us some positivity amongst the darkness at times. But if you're okay with that,
yeah, ask away.
Yeah, sounds good. So, what are you thinking, Ross, score wise for the game?
For Wednesday,
Brentford?
I'm going bold. I'm going 2-0. That's about as bold as I get these days.
Goal scorers?
I think it's going to be a clement evening, a wind of about 4 miles an hour. I don't know how detailed you want this. I think Richarlison and do you know, I'm going to go Maddison. Richarlison and Maddison to score 2-0, nice. And Ivan Toney off on a stretcher.
Ooh, very positive. Go on, Johnny. What about you?
Oh dear, that sounds like a good game. I'd like that. I'm gonna go the same margin. I'm gonna say 3-1. I'll give them a penalty because we haven't had a penalty against us, and hopefully it won't matter too much if we get 3. I'm gonna go with the ubiquitous double header from Richarlison in the hope that one day it's actually going to happen. And I think I quite fancy Maddison, maybe a set piece and maybe Porro. But I'm quite hopeful that we'll win relatively comfortably, I hope. Yeah. Jim?
Yeah, okay, I like it. I'm going to go for 2-1 to Spurs. I normally expect us to go 1-0 down at some point and then come out after an Andrew.
You do actually, yeah.
Back winning, but we did like the comebacks earlier on in the season, didn't we?
Yeah,
Those seem to have dried up a little bit.
True.
I was just looking at Brentford's stats as well, and yeah, they've got the fourth worst XG ratio, third worst expected goals against us, and expected to exceed the third most in the league. Yeah, it's looking pretty bleak statistically for them at the moment. They're certainly not in good form at all. Zones of control as well. They really struggle to control the ball in the middle of the park, which is good for us, I think, especially without Sarr and Bissouma. So yeah, positives there. So Chang sent in a question. Will the City home fixture in the league be any different from the abysmal and dross display of Friday night? Or will it be more of the same if the trio of Son, Madders and Sarr are back on April 20th? What? I'm a bit confused by the dates, but I get the general question.
Yeah.
I think.
What was his name, Jim? Sorry?
Chang.
Chang. Listen to me, Chang. It's okay. Everything's all right. Speak to someone. And it's just the FA Cup, son, all right? Smile. For the love of God, smile.
Chang is normally quite positive in the comments, so I'll give him some defence. But it was kind of like what I kind of feel, because we're so normalised to playing Man City, this negativity creeps in when you lose.
Yeah.
But if we just lost 1-0 to Real Madrid, it'd be like, oh, well, I guess it's Real Madrid. It's going to happen. I'm just grateful to be in the Champions League. You lose in a cup game against City, and it's like, oh, it's just such doom and gloom. Maybe as well because we overperform against them so much, fans have come to expect a bit too much.
Yeah.
I guess the thing about the comparison with when we, like Chang's point being that the game against City in the league is in another, like, just under 3 months. Okay, so all being well, we have a full strength squad available and players that have not just come back from injury. So, we've got the capacity to play our best. So let's just put ourselves into that sort of potential situation. And of course, you could say that, City didn't have Haaland. Clearly, De Bruyne is just coming back from injury as well. But even in that situation, I definitely think that the one area you'd look for an improvement is just like, how are you playing from the very back of the pitch to the very front of the pitch? And it is probably fair to say that it wasn't really the Ange ball that we were playing the other night, like we were trying to, but we just couldn't execute it in the final third. And I would think that when we've got all those players back, we're far more likely to do that and really threaten them. And it would be more like the game I thought Friday might have been, which is a bit of a sort of swashbuckling, backwards and forwards. But in terms of so that's what I would hope.
Let's not forget as well, that midfield was playing, there was a loggerheads battle between Rodri, a guy who hasn't lost a game in 50 different starts. Is it 51 now?
Oh, it's something mental in it, yeah.
It's amazing. Like, what do you expect our third choice midfield to be doing against the best midfield in the world?
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be so negative. I think this would be more positive. Brentford struggle to control the field in the way that City does. I think we'll get more chances. We'll probably start Skipp as well, which would be a more positive move.
Yeah.
Chang's second question was, will there be any more signings, do you think, in the next 72 hours?
No.
I agree with that.
I think a lot of it hinged on if Højbjerg was going to go. And the one good thing I like that we've done this month, apart from getting the other players in early, is the loans we've done, which in Phillips and Devine, we've upgraded Devine's loan, it feels like, and we've sent him and Phillips along. And the Plymouth fans love Phillips. They think he's going to be colossal for us. And that's what you want. It's nice to get some sensible loans out there. I mean, even someone like Troy Parrott is, excuse the pun, excelling ex Excelsior. So the stuff we've done this month, and to get rid of Lloris, Dyer, and Perisic off the books, that's it's all good. It's all good. It's all good for the bank stuff.
Yeah.
Sorry, there. I was just getting lots of my son's knocking the door. But yes, It's like you say, it's like getting these wages off the books so we can accrue money for the summer as well. You shouldn't just go and spaff your budget on something which is 70% of what you need when you can wait.
Yeah,
there's a balance. We're the only club, we've signed more players than anyone else in the Premier League this January as well. So you've got to look at the bigger context of when no one else is buying and selling, the market gets stagnant. So it's harder for us to therefore find opportunities because other people aren't able to offload players and replace them with ours. So it just stops the whole market. And the only other guy we were looking at considering selling was Brian Hill, but it sounds like that's right. Maybe best case scenario, a last minute offer comes in for Hill or Højbjerg and we have someone lined up where we can get someone in, but it's very unlikely at this stage because it sounds like Noose has fallen through and therefore we don't have a ready first choice option on that left wing. You never know. We had Kulusevski and Bentancur on the last day of January in the past, so we've had Van der Vaart, examples. So
the other thing, think about Ross's point about the loans, which is a really good observation. Thinking about other players we have, particularly up in the forward area, we've got Donnelly and we've got Valise, who's now back training apparently, and Scarlett's just come back as well. And I start looking at those three, obviously on top of Parrott as well. Like, is it really something is it good for the club for those lads still to be in N17 for the next 5-6 months, when you sort of like to think that they're obviously not going to be coming in and really doing much? I mean, we'd have to have a really epic kind of failure of events of circumstances in order for us to be needing more than probably one, maybe two. And so
Scarlett can't play for another club though.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, Valise, like, I don't know, like he's not really, and he's very, very young, so maybe there's an opportunity to send him somewhere. I don't know, like maybe the fact that he's injured might make it tricky, but I don't know. Donnelly as well, like Donnelly has obviously been tearing it up in the underage leagues before, but again, he's not really, I don't know, maybe, are you going to learn more from training with the first team and just coming on for 2 minutes every few games? I'm not sure. It's just another question, really.
It's difficult. Go on, sorry, Ross. You got something in your mind there?
Yeah, I think with Donnelly, we don't know. I mean, he looks great. He really does. He's got a good head on his shoulders. Maybe we're just not seeing what's happening in training. Maybe he's not up to speed with the tactics yet. To throw him in an environment probably doesn't help. I mean, he got some good minutes the other night, and I can't remember who it was again. Who did we last beat in the league? I can't remember who it was. It's just January really messes with your mind, doesn't it? But whoever we beat, whoever we beat, he got about 20 minutes, and he seemed fine. We were all trying to think of who we beat last in the league.
It was Bournemouth.
It was the Bournemouth game, yeah. So he got some minutes then, which is good. Scarlett, I think, will get a lot of minutes. Ange seems to really like him. And hopefully players like Dorrington will go out on loan next season and get a really good loan, and Phillips will come back better and Devine will come back better. So it really does put into question, how much do we really need to buy?
Yeah, exactly.
In terms of, I just think it's more, I don't know. It's really hard to pinpoint. I think central midfield, I think when we lose a player like Sarr, it really shows, because he's of his kind of Energizer Bunny efforts he does box to box. So maybe a player like that. Yeah,
it's so hard with the young players. Now we've hit this size of club we are, isn't it? Like when I first started going to Spurs, when we were rubbish, my uncle would always say, like, look at the back of the programme when we were always mid-table. It was like, look at all these academy players. It's like, that was the exciting thing. But when you get to that's all well and good. When you're not good enough to get the top six and you're not bad enough to get relegated, of course you're going to be like, well, I may as well play young players and try increase their value and see if they come good. I can afford the luxury because I'm not going to win every game. I'm not going to lose every game. I'm going to end up somewhere in the middle. When you're Spurs, 3 points is the difference between 4th and 5th, or, dare we dream, 1st and 2nd in an odd season. Like, playing those young kids can unfortunately be the difference that gets you on the lower side of those results. So it's so hard to integrate them. People say, oh, Foden. Well, City got one guy surrounded by 20 world-class players. I'd like to see him playing in a mid-table. I've always said this thing about Foden. whenever he's in a team that's not full strength, he struggles. And I feel like maybe Johnson's a bit like that as well, where some of these younger players, it's all you look at example, but the rest of our team's going, I've got to have 2 people on De Bruyne, I've got to have 2 people on Rodri, I've got to have 2 people on Haaland, and someone like Foden or it was Johnson in our case is just kind of roaming away on the wing in loads of space. It's a lot easier to integrate them into a team and then just bring on another world-class player when you need a goal.
Doggy had him in his pocket the other night. I thought
he did.
He
was brilliant.
He was superb. And the other thing is, like, I think we talked about it a little bit on the last pod, talking about, signings and looking for like a marquee signing. I think Stu was talking about that phrase. The players that we've got, Sarr that you were just talking about there, and the Doggy, they both like really were completely unknown pretty much to I don't know how many people who knew much about them before. I mean, Sarr was from the French league as well. We've got the lads, the Croatian boy. I know he's only 16 or whatever, Vuskovic. He's still another year away, I think, before he comes over. But there's all these like irons in the fire, where there's a lot of hope and potential, and you put the trust in the recruitment. And again, going back to what was said before about Paratici and the players, actually, the vast majority of them, are certainly the success rate has been a lot higher as of the last couple of years, and there's still like this continual other players coming through that have the potential to, be very. I mean, how much would you pay for a Doggy now, and how much would you pay for Sarr now? So.
And Vicario, considering he was meant to be the cheaper option, which I mean, even I was like, oh, Vicario, I don't know who he is. And Van der Ven, I don't know who he is. Can't we go tap sober? I know a bit more about it, but him sign and the more Paratici does for the club, the more I love him, because he's so in the shadows, and it's like that. I don't know if you remember watching the X-Files and the smoking guy who he doesn't say anything. He just sits there observing. That's what I want Fabio to be from now on. I don't want him to say anything. He just goes, "You need a what? Give me 2 minutes." He's in the boot. That's what I want from now on.
Do you think a part of this being able to? Do you think it's part of this being able to attract better players? Because someone like Paratici, despite the illegal stuff in the background, which is a massive elephant in the room, he has elevated the brand of the club to overseas players. It's like, hey, why would the sporting director of the biggest club in Italy and the Italian players are looking at go to that club I never heard of called Tottenham Hotspur, and they start to look at it and they go, oh, Tottenham Hotspur, wow, that stadium's nice. Those guys have played in the Champions League and got to the final, all these things, and they start to make us more appealing and look at a club on the rise rather than a relatively unknown entity across Europe. But Richard Poole had a question as well. So in most sports where there is an outstanding champion, it's common to see an acceptance from the vanquished team that the winner was simply better. And fans accept that to be the case as well. Except in football, where a losing team has always played rubbish. Do you agree? I get what you're saying there. Why is it that in every other sport you lose to the best team in the world and it's just accepted as we had a good run, but in football everything's doomed. Everything's over.
It's a good question. I don't know.
Is it because of social media is just so intense in football as well? Like, it's just such a, how can I get one over you? So that every other fan group is just looking for anything to punch you in the face with.
I don't think it's even the fans. I think like the media are really guilty of this. If you listen to the so-called expert pundit ex-players after a game, and they just, for me, especially obviously like when we're talking about Tottenham here specifically, and Spurs have lost a game. I know, okay, there have been definitely some games this season which we've lost where we deserve to lose. Like, we would have been really lucky to have beaten Wolves, and we didn't in the end, as it turned out, so that's fair enough. But there are other games, like the Villa one comes to mind, where we were the better team over the 90 minutes, in my opinion. I think they were very, very lucky to get the win. They were clinical with the chances that they had. And then you go to these fellas, whoever are in the studio afterwards, and really the narrative is like rewritten, I think, by they just like, they just say the same old Spurs kind of stuff. And it's just that it really bugs me that on the basis of the score line, there is a real sort of a lowering of objectivity, and just it's just like the easy thing is to put down the losing team. I feel it definitely happens with Spurs quite regularly when we do this, and obviously this season it hasn't happened as many times. But I think we've played really well sometimes and been. West Ham was another one, and that's an obvious one. So I think that happens, and then it's like you go into work the next day or whatever, and you get pelters from fans of other teams. Like, mate, did you watch the game? Do you actually know what you're talking about? And that kind of that thing that really bugs, even though I'm like a 50-year-old man and I should be more mature and bigger than that, but it really bugs me still because they don't have a clue what they're talking about.
Yeah, it's also if you don't watch Spurs enough and you're not close to it, and the media is still at this phase of they're still on the Ange is a fraud stage. Just watch this; he's going to get found out any day now. If there are people watch cricket. And maybe Australian listeners probably do, but it's a bit like England with the Bazball. It's like a height. It's like if people don't follow cricket, we basically play the same style, but in cricket form. It's like this all-out attack first motion where you play on the offensive and try and control the game through your own high risk. And we're playing amazing. We've obviously won the World Cup recently, all this stuff. But as soon as you lose one game, it's told you. It'll never work. Should have defended. Blah, 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 blah.
At the weekend, I'm a massive cricket fan myself, and there was this Australian ex-player, Stuart Hogg, I think his name is, and he said, Bazball is falling apart, and when 24 hours later, we've won the test match. But I think it's because also football is the biggest sport in the world. So you're going to accumulate more idiots, and the more idiots you accumulate, the louder they get. And they will shout the loudest as well. They're not making any sense, but they will just... It's a bit like, they're just smacking their head against a tin. They're going to be loud. They're not making any sense, but that's what it is. And I think you're right. I mean, you go into work and people are, Spurs have lost again. The Spurs have lost. And you're like, well, who do you support? Chelsea. For how long? I don't know. They started in 2002.
Have you ever been to a game? Well, no, but I just love Mourinho. Well, he's a manager anymore. What? You get all that. Yeah. But it's always the same kind of commentators as well that say that, who are the same guys who, when you're playing out the back, and 9 times out of 10 it works perfectly. The one to it should have kicked it long. I don't get why you just don't kick it long. You're like, oh my god, how are you a professional and your job is to understand the game, that you don't understand the advantages to playing out of the back and taking on that risk? It's just it's painful. Next question we had was, I don't know how to pronounce your YouTube name, by the way, mate. You'll have to leave in your actual name so I can read out the next one. But CHYP Car is the handle on YouTube. But I'm usually a glass half full Spurs supporter, but I confess some doubts crept in after the Man City game. Putting aside we're missing key players and our defence played well, there was a sense of nervousness and trepidation in our play. I think Man City could sense it and pressed us relentlessly. What happened? We don't care if they score, we'll score more. We couldn't find our rhythm and our attack petered out. Do you guys believe we can go on a winning run now and put this disappointment behind us?
Yes.
I think that's the word.
He's kind of answered his own question though. I mean, it's like there was no rhythm the other night, and it doesn't happen. It happens organically almost. You can't force it because you see what happened. There was a moment in the first half, I think Kulusevski was running down the left, and there was an obvious pass to Werner, and he just couldn't pass it. It just felt like the ball just wouldn't sit right for him. And that can happen in a game, and it just so happened it happened against Man City, and it's going to. Sometimes you can force it because you know that if you give it up in a weird position against Man City, they're just going to crucify you. But they weren't at the sharpest. I mean, they even bought Alvarez off at one point. And one of their best players has got the best name in the world, Oscar Bob. I love that name. Such a great name, Bob. I don't know if you ever watched Blackadder.
It's a Simpsons character, isn't it?
Yeah.
Pretty much.
No. Did you ever watch Blackadder? And the girl that dressed up the guy?
That's right.
Yes, yeah.
Just that's how you say it now.
Yeah.
That's class.
Hello, Bob. But if you put Haaland and a fully fit De Bruyne in that team, they're different. But you put Son and Sarr in our team, we're a different team, so we'll be fine. You'll be fine.
It's also misleading when you look at 11. You're like, oh, most of their players are back. It's like they kind of are. They're not really match fit yet. It's still a couple of weeks away from getting to that stage. We're going to find soon. We discussed it on the last pod. When everyone is back, there's not enough room on our bench for a lot of these guys. Like when we've got Solomon, Sarr, Basuma, and Son all coming back at once. And if we do someone, like suddenly that bench someone's got to miss out. So suddenly we're going into one game a week with an insanely full squad. We've spent the whole season pretty much playing with our B team. I think people forget that, or at least half of our B team has been starting games.
Yeah.
So it'll be the first time we've actually seen our full strength side. So yes, the answer is I think we're going to have a much stronger second half of the season. It might not kick in till the Brighton week because there's still a week of that international football to disrupt us, and they'll need a couple of days when they get back. But yeah, lots to be positive about.
Well, you look at, like you said there, Jim, the fixtures that are coming up. I know there's no easy games and all of that kind of thing, and any team can beat any team and all that. That's true. But if we are playing anywhere like close to our capacity, when you look at the games that we've got coming up, it's a really good run, pretty much into April. And I think that we've got an opportunity to go on a really, really good, and I don't want to have fate or anything here, but to go on a really good run of victories. There's quite a lot of home games coming up, and none of them are against top, apart from the Brighton game. None of them are against teams in the top half. And Brighton, Brighton at home, I would be, again, this season, I would be quite confident. I know it's not easy, but I'd be quite confident.
We've got the fixtures are up. We've got Brentford, Everton, Brighton, Wolves, Palace. Then Villa away is quite hard, but then you've got Fulham, Luton, West Ham. Find that be hard. Nottingham Forest. Yeah. Good time to play Newcastle, by the way. And then we go into that. Well, actually, then we go into the hard run in April. We got Newcastle, City, Arsenal, Liverpool.
Yeah.
But there's no reason why you can't go on a big run in that. Go on, Ross. Sorry.
Yeah.
I don't see the Villa away game being a problem now. I think what happened at the Lane really. I mean, what Matty Cash has done, and I bet you any money, all of a sudden his ankle's hurting, or his hair's not right, or he's not got his lucky pants, so he can't play. I want him to play, and I want Romero to absolutely dismember him, but I don't think he will. Romero's gone sensible now. He's been captain. It's boring.
Yeah, well, we could tell him to do it in injury time, as long as it's then. But yeah, I've got to jump in a couple of minutes. But Ross, it'd be good to hear a little bit about the Tottenham Simpsons account you started, because I think everyone's probably seen it who's on Twitter. Pop up at some point in your life, but what did all this start?
Boredom, I guess. No, the guy who runs the Simpsons England account is the same guy that runs the Nottingham Forest one. He's really good at what he does. And I kept seeing the Simpsons England one during the Euros, and I thought, that is so Spurs. That's very Spurs. That's very Spurs. And to the point where I thought, I'll just start it and see where it goes. But when I'm going to name drop now, guys. When you're a friend of Billy T and he starts retweeting your stuff, you're like, crap. I've got to actually do something with this. But it's just a lot of fun. I mean, when I was younger and I used to watch The Simpsons, I could literally guess the episode within about 5 seconds. I watched it so much. But it is that early stuff. So if I see something, I can relate it to a Simpsons episode and I'll do it. So it's just one of them things, and I get a lot of fun out of it. It's great to do. I like doing my season reviews. People have helped me, even the Simpsons Arsenal one, which is very popular, but he told me he gets bored of it. But I think there's a lot more Arsenal fans on Twitter anyway.
Yeah.
The account itself, though, nearly at 7. I'm trying to get to 10,000 this year. I'm not too bothered if I don't get to it. It's just one of them nice round numbers. But no, it's very Simpsons. There's a lot of bad things and ridiculous things that happened in Springfield, and there's a lot of ridiculous things that happened at Hotspur Way. So you can tie the two together, and when you've got so many characters and so many famous scenes, you can mold it together. And yeah, I'm on a bit of a crusade at the minute. I mean, if you go through my latest tweets, there's a bit of a theme there. So I'm sure the other side don't mind.
Is there a parallel universe where you're run by a purple and gold account and Mr. Burns is Daniel Levy?
Daniel Levy and Burns, they really do tie in well together. I mean, as I said, you couldn't set it up any better. But my favourite character is Ralph. He's so Spurs it hurts. He runs around a lot, doesn't really know what he's doing, and ends up wetting himself. So that's the life of a Spurs fan.
Very good. Well,
but no, I love the account, and I get a lot of joy out of it. I know it makes a few people happy, and that's all I'm there to do now. It's never going to be a nasty account, apart from the odd time I take the mick out of someone.
Well, it just takes the serious edge off when everyone's having a meltdown over an 18-year-old boy from Norway they're never going to meet. It's nice to have a laugh and bring some reality into check that go outside and touch some grass. It doesn't matter.
Please.
It's going to be okay. You shouldn't be getting this upset over someone else's child. But anyway, lovely to have you on, Ross.
Thank you for having me on, guys.
And great to have you too, Johnny. Up the Spurs, boys.
Cheers. Up the Spurs.
Can't Spurs.